I'm Mimi Sheridan, and I lived at what was called the Superintendent's house from 1953 approximately till 1960. And we were the last family to live there. After that, it became nursing education headquarters. So as I said, it was plain. There was no decoration or anything.
Mm-hmm.
There was a large stair hall with the stairs going up, a winding staircase going up the right side.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a living room and a library. Now, in our friend's house, they had a parlor, but we had a living room and a library, and the sliding doors were never open because the library was entirely full of books.
Not entirely.
Yes, I mean, like all the walls
Mm-hmm.
were covered with books. And there was a fireplace there. It was the only working fireplace at that time.
Okay.
Originally, there must have been half a dozen, I think.
It looks like it, yeah.
Yes, but there was only one working fireplace at that time in the library.
Is that right when you come in, the front door is the room to the left? Because you come in, the stairway is right here. And then
Right,
there's that
exactly,
room,
yeah.
that was
So
the
the left
library.
was the living room and then the
Okay.
library.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
then on the right is the dining room
Okay.
and the both butler's pantry.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I've seen that.
Yes,
Mhm.
right. And then there was a big kitchen and a small room. And you really have to see the house with servants
Mm-hmm.
because it had a rear staircase and the butler's pantry, and it had what was probably a servant's dining room,
Okay.
which we called the breakfast room. And we usually ate in the main dining room, but we sometimes ate. I don't know how we decided where to eat, but we used both rooms.
Yeah.
We used the dining room and the small room.
And then there's 3 bedrooms upstairs.
Right. And so then there's the addition, the 1921 addition,
Okay.
which had 2 bedrooms, 2 rooms with a sink in between on the first floor. And I presume those were built as servants' quarters.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Then the sun porch, or whatever you want to call it,
Mhm.
sleeping porch on the second floor.
Mm-hmm.
And those were added in 21.
I've seen those.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then upstairs there were 3 large bedrooms and 3 bathrooms.
Okay.
And there was a bathroom on the main floor too, near the kitchen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there are 4 bathrooms.
Attic or no?
Yeah, there's an attic, a full attic. However, the basement
Mm-hmm.
is worth a book.
Yeah.
Do you know about the
I
basement?
went in there. I went in
Okay.
the basement. Would you have stories about the basement?
Well, the thing about the basement is that it is the district heating
Oh, okay.
headquarters for the whole boulevard, for the whole avenue.
Oh,
And so you go in and there's this little tunnel-like thing.
yeah.
And one side is really cold for some reason. The other side is really hot. And there's the mechanism for the steam heat.
Mm-hmm.
I presume this is still there.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I don't remember when I last saw it, but
I think they had some steam damage in the house.
oh, that could be.
Mhm.
The steam fitter was a friend of ours. He was there
Okay.
so often. Really. His name
Really?
was Kiesecker, and his wife did porcelain, professional quality porcelain. I think I still have something she gave me. But yeah, so it was quite a fascinating place. And then there was a big stone basement. We had a Ringer washing machine. And I did a lot of laundry. Then we didn't hang clothes outside. We hung them inside.
Oh, inside there?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So one night, while we were doing our homework, there was this big ruckus outside, and we went out, and this young black kid being brought in by his family,
Mm-hmm.
escaped from his family, and he went up on the drain pipe to the 1-story section.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fire department came and everything. And I think it was his brother who went up and got him down,
Mhm.
but he didn't jump and
He
he
didn't
wasn't
jump.
hurt. No.
Oh, good.
But
Okay.
it was an uproar.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was the time a patient came in the front door and we were all in the kitchen. She went back and she was mad at my mother, obviously, and she picked up a heavy glass teapot
Mm-hmm.
and threw it at my father.
Oh my gosh.
But she missed. And then my mother just pushed us out. There were 2 doors in the kitchen. She pushed us out the door, and there was a phone back there, and called the operator. So
That must have been terrifying.
all you had to do was call the operator.
And they
So
would.
I was home a lot alone because I was always sick.
Mm.
And all I had to do was call the operator and she would find my mother. But we had very little problem with
Yeah.
the patients. I
Yeah.
mean, they didn't come into our space.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I went all over the grounds.
Mm-hmm.
I realized I don't know much about this area.
Yeah.
The post office was over here, I think. So, but I would wander, around. The canteen was here, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And, there was nothing. I was just used to people.
Did you have any pets or anything? Were you
We had
allowed to
a
have
cat.
pets?
Yeah. There were not many cats. I remember Dr. Jewell,
Mm-hmm.
who lived in the house that's all covered by trees.
Mm-hmm.
He had a dachshund, but I was thinking there are not very many pets. Now, Horsholt Hall, which is gone now, that was the old auditorium. And we went there for movies.
Oh, fun. Mm-hmm.
And probably more than to the downtown theater. And they also had mass there, but we didn't usually go there for mass. And they had dances and things. But the ballpark was a center for activity. I don't know what's used for now, but there was a lot of ball playing.
Like activities and stuff, games and things like that?
Well, they had baseball games.
Mm-hmm.
And on the 4th of July, they had a parade.
Oh, fun.
At the ballpark with the wards made. They had these wooden carts. They were big, like bigger than this table.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they made floats. And so, and then there was Santa at Christmas.
Mm-hmm. Because downtown must have seemed quite a bit away.
Yes. And
a little bit of drive.
Yeah, so we went down, but we went to San Francisco a lot too, but we shopped downtown. I mean,
Do you remember like the Mervyn's? A lot of people talk about the Mervyn's that was in the Migliovaca building. Oh, Carruthers.
Yeah, I remember Carruthers, and let's see, Zeller's Hardware, and
that's still there.
We had a big Christmas tree that came from the Cutterback's nursery.
Oh, okay.
I think in the stair hall we had a huge Christmas tree.
Wonderful.
It was delivered by the nursery. Also, they delivered a lot of manure, I remember.
Mm-hmm.
I remember a place we went often was an Italian grocery store on Main Street.
Oh, really?
Called Giusti's, I think. And they had cold cuts and all sorts of, Italian things. But we went to a store that's still there, right off the grounds, Economy Market.
Okay.
I went to kindergarten there, and whatever that school was named.
Okay.
Sure. Yeah, so anyway, there's a school right off the grounds.
Yeah. Okay.
A few blocks. And so I walked to kindergarten.
Oh, fun.
So I know I did that.
And they went to St. John's for the other school, which is over here across the street.
And before that, I went to nursery school for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Wonderful. What a great history.
This is a picture taken when right after I was first born in 1949. We lived at the upstairs apartment with the balcony at the manor house. In 1950, my brothers were born. So this is a picture taken in 1951 that shows the landscape around the manor house, out in front of the manor house and the superintendent's house. So
cute brothers.
So this is what the house looked like when we lived there. And the notable feature, of course, is the wisteria vine that covered the whole front of the house, the whole front of the porch. And that was taken down right after we moved in 1960 because it was evidently undermining the foundation, as wisteria is wont to do. Right.
And I think it's interesting that these columns are so big. So this is by Luther Turton.
Right, pretty sure.
The
Yeah,
architect.
Yes, right.
And it looks a little different than this, but not too much today. But the way he projected these columns out was very unusual for the period. And so I think you can tell his architecture because he'll do something a little different. Yeah,
because the general history of these houses, of course, is that 3 of them were built at about the same time to house the doctors, the main doctors who were then living in the big castle building.
Oh, is that you right there?
I think so.
Oh my
It must
gosh,
be, but you can hardly
wonderful?
see me. Then I have a few other pictures. This is an interior photo. It's the only interior photo I have. It doesn't tell much except that there is a sconce there, a lighting sconce. But the interior was very plain.
Okay.
I mean, there was nothing,
Wasn't fancy.
no, there was nothing fancy about the interior. It was very
And it was
plain.
built as the superintendent's residence, I think I read.
Well, actually, the manor house, I think, was first built as the superintendent's residence.
Okay.
And it has a commercial kitchen, and a porte cochere was added.
That's
And
the other house next to it?
Right,
Next
yes,
to this
yes.
one? Okay.
however, according to the survey, it became an apartment in 1920.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess this house became like, it was the first assistant superintendent or whatever.
Okay.
They have a picture here. This is next door between
Mm-hmm.
our house and the manor house. There was then a huge lawn,
Mm-hmm.
round lawn, which is now parking, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then
parking.
the tree is there.
And who's mowing the lawn?
I
then?
don't know because we did not mow the lawns. The patients, we did a lot of yard work, but
Yeah.
the patients mowed the lawns.
Oh, the patients took care of all the landscaping, you were saying?
Yeah, we had big gardens, which I can talk about. We
Mhm.
did a lot of vegetable gardening
Mm-hmm.
ourselves,
Mhm.
but we didn't do the lawns. So this is what we had. I can show you on the map. We had a huge backyard with a trellis fence like that, and had a big lawn, a rose garden with a lath house, and big beds for vegetables
Mm-hmm.
that had been cut out of the lawn.
Looks like a fun childhood.
There was also a place called, there was a small fenced area. I don't know what its original purpose was. That's my other brother.
Mm-hmm.
But we grew herbs there, but I don't know the original purpose of that area. There was another structure called the peacock pens.
Mm-hmm.
We did not have peacocks. So they're the two most important pictures. This is perhaps the only known photo of a fish pond.
Okay.
There were 4 fish ponds with a big rock garden. They were sheltered by 5 or 6 huge elm trees. So it was like a huge shady dome,
Mm-hmm.
like this. This is the small fish pond. Then there was a medium and a large one connected with a little bridge over them. They were all surrounded by rocks like that.
Hmm.
And then there's a rockery maybe 12 feet high with a waterfall.
Hmm.
And then there was a grotto with a small fish pond. There was also a screen house.
Okay. And you're saying all that was demolished
Right.
at some point?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is another picture. You can see
Mm-hmm.
the rocks there. It was very dark. It was hard to take
I can
pictures.
see those.
Yes.
I can see the rocks right here lined
yes.
up.
They were all surrounded
It's
by
like
rocks.
a screening. Mm-hmm.
Right, yeah.
So like a park, really.
Oh, yeah.
Like a landscape park.
And it was our private
Mm-hmm.
place, Nobody went there.
Yeah.
It was not fenced.
Mm-hmm.
Then this is just a later picture, just showing again the trees looking over toward the
Across.
dorms.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that's it for these pictures.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a picture actually shortly after we moved in, showing some of the, so actually,
Oh.
Yeah.
And that's you.
right, yes. So yes, so
and
this,
you were 4 years old when you moved to the house.
roughly, this I
About.
think might be 3.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure if it was 52 or 53.
Okay, somewhere in there.
Right, yes.
And then you were saying, in this document, do you want to explain this document? It says current changes and new activities for nursing personnel.
Right. So this was written by the sort of the PR person at the hospital who sent it to my mother in 1961. And she talks about what has happened to the buildings and how she describes how each of the spaces has been turned into an office, and she describes which nurses were, which nursing official was in each space. And then she talks about the wisteria being taken down. She also mentions the presence of the rock garden, which is the only time I've ever seen it mentioned at all. And she says that it was built in the 1930s for Dr. Stice as a WPA project.
That's interesting. I haven't
It's
heard
very-
that WPA
no,
was doing any work. there?
I think I came across something. I have not researched this. I just found this a few months ago.
Where'd you find it?
My mother had lots of boxes.
Oh.
I moved a year ago exactly.
Okay.
And so I went through some of those boxes I hadn't, and that's where this stuff comes from.
Oh, okay. That's
Yeah.
good. Okay.
But it's just an important thing that was just, it was there for what, 30, 40 years and then disappeared. So this is an old map.
Okay.
Let's see if that's the best one or not.
Doctor's
Let's use
office,
this one.
Okay.
This map, by the way, shows where patients were allowed to go.
Okay.
So the
Inbound women.
yes, right. So this is our house. This is the manor house. This is our garage here. Now, I think this is a tennis court.
Oh.
It may still be there. I don't remember. But this is the children's unit.
Oh.
This is important. So our backyard encompassed, the children's unit this was all their playground. And our backyard was this whole area. With the rock garden here, and then that big open space with the lawn and garden here. We also, by the way, had a hole in the fence here. So we went and played in the playground here.
Okay.
Which had like park-like swings, huge swings and everything. So we played. Now, this was closed right after we left, about 1961 or 62. They built the new children's unit. My godfather was the head of children's services, Dr. McGrath. And now I think they put a chapel in here somewhere. And then there was this lane that went down behind all the houses here.
Oh, okay.
This is the garage for the garages for the manor house. One thing that's never mentioned is that there was a fourth mansion.
Okay.
Right there, I think.
Okay. And that was demolished?
Yes, it was like Magnolia Manor burned in the 60s. And then this also was demolished. It also burned. I don't remember when. Yeah, and so it would be interesting to have a context statement for this because we know basic history of these three buildings, but why was there a fourth mansion? There was about the same time period, but the interior I thought in my memory was fancier, and like the stairway was fancier. It might have been Lincrusta Walton.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I did not know that then, of course, when
right.
I was 10 years old. But it was fancier inside than our house.
Okay. So your mother is Frances.
Right.
Sheridan.
Right. Yeah, Frances Phillips Sheridan. And I'm trying to, because there is a little paragraph about her in the staff that I just had. My mother graduated from the University of Texas Medical School in 1942. And during the war, her sisters moved from Texas to California. So she interned in LA, and then she joined the Navy. And so when she got out of the Navy in active duty in 1945, she actually got a job at Napa, but then she right away pretty much got like a fellowship, I don't know the right word for it, to study neurology in London. So,
I mean, isn't that pretty impressive for women in that period, during World War II?
Yes, I think so, yes. And I have a little thread to follow up about, because she was in the medical corps, and I think that was very unusual, that she was not a wave.
Yeah.
She was in the medical corps. But anyway, so she was actually on the staff there from like 1945, but she went to London, and then in 47 she came back. She was there 46, 47 for like 6 or 8 months. And that's when she got married. But then she went to Langley Porter. She studied at Langley Porter, which is part of UCSF.
Okay.
And so I was born there, and while she was studying there. So finally in 1949, she came back to Napa, and that's when we lived in the
She
Manor
sounds like
House.
a pathbreaker.
Yeah, so she
Right
was
after the war, it's quite
she was a
amazing.
ward psychiatrist in the S unit and
Oh,
and
okay.
also in P ward, which I guess was one of the really old wards.
Mm-hmm.
It was demolished a long time ago. And so her patients were mostly depressed women. And this was during, I don't know how much you know about mental health, but right about 1960 was when psychoactive drugs came in, which essentially over time took away most of her patients in a good way, you know, that they could leave the hospital.
Right.
So I think there's a picture in here of the lab. It doesn't have her, but it mentions her name right here. Yes. It's pathology. Here. So this is her lab.
Oh,
I
okay.
used to go visit her there. And it doesn't have her picture, but it says it's the EEG department is under the direction of Dr. Frances Sheridan.
Oh my goodness.
And this was her tech, Chloe G.
And what does this one says about problems with building demolition? Was this where they were demolishing? Isn't this
Right, yes.
the newspaper from the
This
hospital?
is for the dedication of the new building. So this talks about how hard it was to demolish the other one.
Oh, I wouldn't want to read
yes.
that.
Right, yes. So somebody must have good copies of this. I mean,
It was an extension. It's dated Friday, December 11th, 1954.
right, it was a special edition, right?
Okay,
yes,
from the Napa
right,
Register
right,
dedication.
right.
Oh, and this is December 11th, 1953. Okay,
Right,
so
right there.
and then she's right there.
Right,
I'll hold it up
because she
right
was
here.
tall.
And here she is.
Yeah.
Staff physicians pose in front of the new administration building in 1955.
There are other pictures. Somewhere I have an article from the Napa Register, I think, about her going away party.
Oh, how fun.
There's the Imola News covered, they had in the Imola News, there was this page about the younger set, which says, Amelia Sheridan, the very young daughter, and I was maybe a year old, of Dr. Frances Phillips Sheridan, has practically graduated from the hold me in your arms stage and is now seen running around the grounds in a kiddie car.
So that was you in the kiddie car on
She
the
was
ground.
she was about the liveliest individual around the grounds, cool and comfortable while the rest of us were about ready to wilt.
And what year was that? Did it say?
This would have been, this is 49, so I was only like a year old. So I don't know what it means about the kiddie car. The rest I understand. One thing is that we had no playmates because I can tell you who lived in each of these houses.
Okay.
The people in the fourth mansion, the Buckeys, they had 2 children, and I played with the son, but the daughter was probably 5 years older. And then other doctors lived up on the hill, but we didn't have any contact with them. And
was this out in the country when it started? So now when you go to the hospital, it feels like, it's across the street from Target and the gas station, but was it out in the country in those days?
Oh, yes. When we lived there, what is now the college was the orchard.
Oh, okay.
The hospital property goes all the way to the river and included the whole park, the hill,
right,
that forest, whatever that's called now. And so there's written in various places, and I don't know much about this, is the water system and the dams, and there are 3 lakes.
Okay.
All I remember is we used to go up there occasionally to swim. One of the lakes had a swimming pool in it. It was very cold. And we had to go up a trail and over a stile to get there. But yeah, so the grounds, and there was a dairy over here.
Okay.
And orchards, and because when it was first built, it was totally self-contained, and so they had to have the river, for supplies and everything.
Did you come to downtown Napa at all?
Well, we went to St. John's.
Okay.
You see, that's one reason we didn't have any playmates, I guess.
Yeah.
yeah, so we went to St. John's
Mm-hmm.
and across the street from here, pretty much. And yeah, so there were no other kids
Mm-hmm.
in this area. The chaplain, they lived here.
Mm-hmm.
They had a baby.
Uh,
Occasionally, there were people living in the manor house for a short time while they waited for, to find a place to live.
mm-hmm.
And then across in the superintendent's secretary had a daughter, and they were divorced. And when she stayed with her husband, with her divorced father,
Mm-hmm.
we would play with her.
Mm-hmm.
That was the extent. One interesting point is this building was a school
Uh-huh.
for
Okay.
them. Yeah, but no, we knew these people. We saw the Buckies in the fourth mansion a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He was actually my mother's boss, but his wife Beth was probably my mother's best friend.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
And we went there to watch Disney
Oh yeah.
on
Mhm.
Sunday night.
Oh, I used to watch Disney
Yeah,
on
because
Sunday night.
we didn't have a TV.
Right.
So, there's this lane here, you see, and I used to
Uh-huh.
walk down the lane
Uh-huh.
and see people like going to the garage. The lane is right here.
Okay.
It's just a lane. Dr. Riley in the Manor House, who was a psychologist, he and his
Mhm.
wife were both psychologists, he maintained a huge garden here.
Okay.
So I knew him, and I'd just, hang out along the lane here and talk to people. I remember the judges came,
Mm-hmm.
Kongsgaard and Blankenberg.
Oh really?
I
Okay.
remember they came to dinner.
And you were telling me your father lived in San Francisco because he had a job.
Not,
there.
well,
Or he had
no,
a-
he didn't
he had an
totally live
apartment
there, right,
yeah.
yeah, he was here like half time,
Mhm.
back and forth, yeah. 'Cause
Mhm.
in those days, you couldn't just commute to San Francisco.
Ah, right.
You didn't just drive back and forth like you do now.
I wonder if the drive must have been a lot longer just because of, I don't know. Or maybe just people.
I don't
didn't do
remember
that.
ever driving to we took the Greyhound bus.
Oh,
We
okay.
went there often because my aunts lived there,
Mhm.
and so I went to San Francisco a lot. Fireplace. This was our library, and this was a working fireplace. That for sure, I know that. Yeah. So this room, the doors were always closed because we had bookcases all the way around.
Oh wow.
And in this room, can I open the door?
Yes, you can.
So.
Just use it as a closet now.
Well, in this room, there was like a rotating bookcase. It was like as tall as the top of that cabinet.
Were those transom windows? Could you see through those windows?
of course, yeah.
And did the fireplace have Victorian tile?
No, not that I recall.
Not that you were.
No. I don't know why we had so much stuff. That was totally full of like wine glasses and martini glasses and things
Oh,
like
love
that.
Yes.
And we had a buffet and a smaller sideboard here, and the table sat 8.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
we usually ate in here, but not all the time.
Yeah.
So this is the butler's pantry. There's a sink here.
Oh,
There's always a sink in a butler's pantry. That's sort of the point.
right.
And we actually had a dishwasher in here.
Yes.
And then this was the kitchen, obviously. So again, obviously we had a sink over there and a stove over there.
Okay.
And cabinets all over. It's sort of like, I mean, nothing special. There's a big central table or cabinet, I guess would be.
And
At least once or twice we made beer and kept it in here, but we also made root beer once and it once exploded.
oh my gosh.
The other thing I remember is that we got some, I don't know what you call raw walnuts. You have to dry the walnuts. And so we covered the floor with walnuts.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of my mother's friends were the women. Not so much the women doctors, but like social workers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We didn't use the balconies. I seem to remember I had a crib over here.
Oh,
So obviously I was pretty little then.
yeah.
So, and I slept in the guest room when it was really cold because there's more shelter from the wind.
Okay,
So-
yeah.
But, yeah, so this is all like it was except for the obvious changes.
Yeah,
The woodwork.
the flooring. And,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And the
It
wood.
was, yeah.
Yeah. We always had a big Christmas tree in here. So you
Oh,
could
right
put like a
here.
candle
Oh,
to
yeah.
here.
And you could, oh, that
Right.
must have been
Yes.
amazing.